All right, so I tried to start my live twice with some positive music, but apparently they won't allow music that belongs to somebody else into my live. So that's okay. I only got about 15 minutes, so let's just get into this. All right, so hi, hello. My name is Chelsea Smith, and I am The Love Project. And The Love Project is a journal lifestyle brand in the entertainment community. And just a little bit about me, I've been journaling for over 17 years. My lifestyle with journaling began at just 11 years old. I'm also a psychology graduate from Cal State University Northridge. So I understand based on knowledge and experience just how journaling can aid you in your personal and professional development. Right now, I'm currently publishing one of my journals as a graphic memoir from when the Love Project began. And if you like to follow me, you can follow me at my IG handle. I am the Love Project with 2 T's at the end. So today I'll be teaching you briefly how to begin your own story in your journal today so that you can start your own love project. So when I speak with people who want to journal but they don't know how, it's mainly because they don't know what to write, they lack the discipline, or they doubt themselves for sounding unorganized. So I'm here to fix all of that. And the reason why this is important is because a lot of us tend to suffer from trauma. And if you define trauma, it's a body wound from violence or an accident by sudden physical injury from so here I have it written down. Trauma is a body wound or a shock produced by sudden physical injury as from violence or accident. Another definition says that it's an experience produced by psychological injury or pain. So when we suffer from trauma, how can we cope when when you don't always have anyone to unpack your thoughts to? This is why most people tend to see a therapist, or maybe why we drink or smoke deep down inside, or we feel anxiety or depression and anger or low self-esteem and many other problems. So one of the big philosophical problems that I tend to gravitate towards when it comes to this issue of people not journaling is that did you know that the majority of world conflict and the world conflict and death is due to emotions, like anger, those bad emotions, relationships, and psychological issues? Yeah. So life is a feeling experience. Life is about relationships. So with that being said, our journals are technically tools for our survival. And I want to teach you how to use it so that not only it can work for you, but it can inspire the next person and it can save more people from their trauma. And as an added bonus on beginning your journey, it's worth noting that the benefits of incorporating journaling into your lifestyle, one being that not only does it evoke mindfulness, it stretches your IQ and it helps you to achieve goals, but it will overall give you greater happiness and life satisfaction. And I definitely guarantee that as a 17-year journalist. Some of the most successful people you know will even tell you that writing your goals down and expressing yourself allows you to become more successful in your own life. So this is the mission behind the Love Project, and it's my promise to inform you, to inspire you, and to connect you with yourself and with others. So, in your journey of self-actualization. And if you don't know what self-actualization is, it's a psychological term that we use to describe the achievement of one's potential through creativity, independence, spontaneity, and for you to get a grasp on the real world. So let's get started. When one begins a story, we start out with a character, and that's our hero. So that's you. You are the main character of your story. You are the hero of your story. So in last week's episode, we introduced ourselves This is the portion where you ask yourself who you are. So who are you and what do you do? So you're the main character. And here's one tip that I can't stress enough, is that when you're answering this question of who you are, you have to be honest with yourself. That's the first step to loving yourself, is being honest with yourself and who you are and where you are in life. It's important to note that some of us may know ourselves better than others, and that's okay. Another tip I'd like to share to make journaling a more magical experience for you is to use I Am Affirmations when talking about who you are. So our affirmations to ourselves are very powerful in manifesting who we're deciding to become each day. Things like I am strong-willed, or I am working to become better at, so on and so forth. So next in a story is a problem. So typically the character in the story has a problem, and that's with all of us. So after we introduced ourselves in our last episode, we stated our current discomfort. This is a problem or issue that's been on your mind and bothering you. So it can be anything. There is no right or wrong answers to what troubles you. Remember that this is your story. Journaling, when you begin a personal story of journaling, no one has to read it. I choose to publish mine as an example, but no one has to read your story. Just know that it's yours. So it can be about procrastination, a relationship, a poor diet, a new or an old loss in your life, self-esteem issues. For me, I mentioned in the last episode that it was about my diet, my weight, and my income. But honestly, after living a little, literally a whole week went by and everything changed for me. So for me, I'm actually going to change my current discomfort to anxiety. That's one of my biggest current discomforts that I've been dealing with since I've been implementing more of what I need to do to become better in my life. So take a minute to review or catch up on your story now, and feel free to speak to me or, comment below if you want to openly participate in this journey with me. All right. So in this episode, I want us to understand our problems. So last week we introduced CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is posted in my story, in my story area. So in this episode, I want us to understand our problems. I want you to write this down in your journal, that there are 5 elements to a problem. There are 5 elements to every problem. So while you get that ready, give me 1 second. All right, so there's 5 problems to any problem, and these are it. So number 1 is your environment and your life situation. That's number 1. Number 2 is your physical reactions. Number 3 is your moods. And number 4 is your behavior. Number 5 is your thoughts. So after this live, I will post a diagram of this so that you can see the visual of this diagram. And what's important about this is knowing that each of these 5 parts, they interact with each other. Just want you guys to process that. Five elements to a problem. So, out of these 5 elements, we're going to start with our thoughts. I'm just going to briefly state that it begins with our thoughts, which we're putting down on our journals now. When we identify our current discomfort, we're putting our thoughts down. We're putting our issues down on the paper, which is telling your brain that this is important. This problem is important. So if you're serious about changing your life and changing, some of your bad habits, or just trying to get over anxiety, for example, like me, you want to write this current discomfort down so you can tell your brain that this is important. All right. So I'll explain how this diagram works so we can, when we begin to write our problems down, we can now understand where they come from. Like I said, it starts with our thoughts. So, let's see. All right, so all of these said notes are important to meditate on when we're first understanding our character's problem. They're seeds to think about when understanding our own problem. And it's one thing to learn to identify a problem, but it's next we have to understand what these problems are so that we can unpack them and start to figure out how we can conquer them. Once we understand our problems, by understanding our problems, it helps us to become better problem solvers. And this is great. I just want to make a side note that this is great because if the more you practice this, the more that you can trust your own self and not perhaps see a therapist. I don't discourage seeing a therapist, but it's good to know that you can survive. We're using our journals as tools of survival, and helping us with our psychological issues. So this is what I've begun to do in my journey to conquer my problem with anxiety. So I introduced myself. I had to identify my current discomfort. And now we dove into the elements of our discomfort to better understand what we are about to dive into. So, as well, so we're going to learn what we're about to dive into, as well as learn how to journal efficiently, grow personally and professionally, and be able to tell our stories and inspire others. Now, at the end of the day, if you are experiencing my brand experience, you can choose to journal your story at the end if you want to inspire somebody else. That is an option that I am doing, that I'm going through. But I think it's really great that people see more authentic stories like this of real people. We're artisan thought leaders. So it's this page is about real people, real stories, and real problems. So this is what makes The Love Project a journal lifestyle brand for our personal and professional development as artists and thought leaders. So I want to wrap up because I don't have a lot of time left. In the next episode, we'll be dissecting this new diagram of the 5 elements of a problem with our personal and professional journeys. We'll begin briefly with our thoughts. It's the process of identifying, testing, and considering alternative thoughts, which is that's a central element of CBT therapy, which is what we're learning about in our Mind Over Mood journaling journey. So it all begins with our thoughts. We introduced ourselves. We put down our current discomfort. Now we're understanding what the 5 elements of a problem is, so that when we input our current discomfort within that diagram, we can start to really play around with understanding our problems. And we can get really creative with this. This is where the journey really begins. This is where the story begins, where you can talk about how you deal with these problems. How has it came into your life? How does it affect your behavior? How does it influence your mood? And maybe what physical reactions do you feel? For me with anxiety, I tend to feel bodily reactions. And so now that we understand the elements of a problem and that it begins with our thoughts, we can really begin using this diagram to help us tell our stories and understand what our problems are. So that's my time. Thank you for joining, artists and players, for tuning in, and I'll see you all next week.